Hello, Mike. It's great to have you here today.
Good morning, Erica. How are you doing?
I'm well. It's really nice to see you. I wanted to get together so we could talk about our books and share some best practices from our work supporting people in their career journeys. So, welcome everybody. My name is Erica Mattison. I have a private coaching practice where I help people develop rewarding, impactful careers and support them to be confident and step into their leadership potential. I specialize in working with people who are looking to do good in the world and do well in their lives. Mike, tell us a little bit about your work.
Well, basically, I wrote the award-winning book Careers by the People and also a bestseller on Amazon. And from there, as well as my 30 years in technology, I built a student success workshop. So I talked to students around the country, high schools, colleges about career readiness and ideas and things that I learned over 30 years, and how they can prepare for the real world.
Excellent. And Mike and I are both alums of UMass Amherst, so we have that in common. Go UMass. And we are in the career world together. We've gotten to meet in person at the National Career Development Association Global Annual Conference in 2023 in Chicago. And we've gotten to be part of each other's work, also meeting up in Boston in person when I was leading a career toolkit course at the business school at Boston University. So, having Mike come in and speak with my students and share about his book and the key learnings was really wonderful. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about what kinds of messages you hope people take away from your book.
It's a lot of messages, a lot of information. I mean, even though the book has 101 careers by the people that actually work them, it's really I talk a lot about in the intro, the conclusion, my journey of how I should have prepared for the real world when I was at UMass, and I didn't. I just decided to go get the degree and see what happens from there. But I give the students some solid tactical information of how to prepare for the real world so when they come out day one, they're out and running versus behind the eight ball. Because as you know, with the variety of colleges that are out there and a variety of schools and technical schools, you have to be ready for it. And if they're not, then they're going to be behind the eight ball. So why not start off ahead of the game?
Absolutely. So many people go to school, they get a degree, they might come out with a lot of debt, and they don't necessarily know what they want to do. That's one scenario, right? They don't necessarily know how to get a job or what they want to do. And then you also have people who are many years, even decades into their careers, but they never really learned about career stewardship. They never really learned how to raise their self-awareness, how to inventory their skills, how to figure out what they want or what's important to them, what their values are, what kind of work culture they want to be part of, what kinds of projects they want to work on, or what they want their day to day to be like. Or maybe they've been a variety of situations, some of which have felt like better fits than others,
Yeah.
but they're just not really sure how to figure out their next steps. Does that sound familiar at all, Mike?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, as you and I have talked about in the past, that was my world because if you don't prepare at the beginning, when you get to a certain point, when you're 28, 30, or 25, 30, 35, whatever, and you're miserable because you didn't prepare at the beginning stages, and yeah, it's might even be tougher because you might mortgages, you might have children, marriages, family, a lot of issues that will add to your stress. So correct.
So, what I'm hearing from you is that it's really important for people as early on in their career as possible to get a sense of what kinds of occupations, what kinds of industries also could be a good fit for them. Is that right?
It's 100% right. You nailed it on the head big time. I go back to Frank Parsons, 1909. He's the original, the OG of the career industry. And Frank comments in 1909, people have to understand that's 100 plus years ago. Two biggest choices: choice of a spouse and a vocation. And if you don't get those right, you're going down the wrong path. So I suggest people put more time and effort into what they want to do, how they want to do it, how they want to understand what's the best occupation for them. My biggest joke always is people spend more time deciding on a television set or a car or where to live than they do on a career. And as you know, it's 40 years. So if you don't decide, it's gonna muddle your life up. So yeah, so that's, I really try to push that as much as possible.
So what I'm hearing is that it's really important for people to take their career seriously, because if they don't, then it's more like their career happened to them,
Yeah.
not for them, and that they weren't proactive in making informed choices.
Correct, 100%. The worst is like when people say, "Oh yeah, I fell into it." It's like, oh God, I want to hear something. The best ones that I'm working on book 2 now is the people that are preparing the right way. They're doing their internships. They're doing temp jobs. They're going to conventions. They're doing networking activities. They're speaking to people in the fields and out of the fields that they're interested in. Other than that, it's a risk. I mean, if you want to be a lawyer and you're watching TV shows about law, I mean, it doesn't even correlate, So as you know, you got a JD. So yeah,
Right,
it's just
right.
it's shockingly amazing what's happening out there.
Yeah, so you can read job descriptions, and I think most career coaches would encourage people to read lots of job descriptions because you can learn so much from doing that. But there's an and. The and is don't stop there, right? Don't stop at reading the job posting. Talk to people.
100%.
Mike's book, for instance, right? Your book really give people a taste of what they can find in your book, because it is like getting to read interviews of people who are in all these different careers, all these different types of roles, and having those kinds of conversations and reading books like yours. I feel like it's so valuable because that way you go into situations with more awareness and you can broaden your sense of what you might be interested in. And you can also narrow it, both of which are important because you want to eliminate some things, right? You don't want to feel like, oh, well, I can do anything, so I can't make any decisions because there are too many options. No, you want to feel like you have options, but that it's not overwhelming, right? Because you want
Yeah.
to narrow it down to a set of things that do feel like a good fit for you.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was I in the book is 101 different occupations from the people who actually work them. Each was asked 20 plus questions, majority of 5 years in their field. So we're talking about CEOs, actuaries, accountants, all over the map. And so I always tell the students or the people reading the books, I go, look at the occupations, whatever interest you, read a little bit about that. But if they do pick out and read about the actuary, as you know, it's one actuary, that's it. So hopefully that either interests them or doesn't, but then again, still expand from there. I always say, speak to a minimum of 5 people in the field and at least 2 that have left the occupation too, because you don't want to get the rosy picture. Always do both sides of the coin. And as my book has, which is only a couple other books that I've written have done it, is they actually really talk to the worker versus a lot of these, platitudes or whatever. They talk about theory. Theory is great and all like that, but in the real world, you have to speak to people in the industry that you're going to go into. If you're going to be a mechanical engineer, you better be speaking to mechanical engineers. And I always tell them, outside of the family, Uncle Vito will always make sure that everything's happy and joyous in your little world. But if you speak to people who have no connections to you and get one-on-one time, that's the way to do it. And that ties back into internships, temporary jobs, part-time, go for jobs, whatever you can do. So when these people, can understand what your thought process are, you can sit there and go, Susie, hey, Bob, spend 15 minutes, I'd like to ask some questions about your occupation, but at least they've seen it and have an understanding. So if they get it, it's going to be hard work, but it's better to do and get it done than wake up at 42 years old miserable. So
Yeah,
I
so
think,
doing that research, right? The importance of that. And I appreciate what you say, Mike, about how, don't just talk to family members because you're gonna get,
yeah,
you know, they might sugarcoat it or what have you, and then, it's complicated. So
yeah,
talk to people outside of your family. And then also what you said about talk to a range of people, okay? Because take into account somebody is coming to their career with their own lived experience, and the way that they approach situations, their mindset, their set of skills, their experiences, their educational background, and that's going to shape their experience. So that's different from you. You have your own set of lived experiences. And they might have had a really terrible boss, or they might have been part of this, toxic work environment, or their company might have gone through a merger, which really changed things and impacted their experience, or, any number of things that could have happened that shaped their experience. So you layer that on top of whoever they are. And so that's very different than potentially what your experience could be working in that role, working in that field, working on those kinds of issues. And so I echo what you said, Mike, about talk to a range of people, because you really do want to have a good sample size. These are decisions that matter, and you don't want to go based on just, what one or two people have to say about their experience.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, the other thing too is, what if the person moved up the ladder and they're CEO, or what if they just, they're just kicking back and staying in the same, gig for 20 years. Maybe they enjoy it or whatever, but you're right. Get as much views as possible, and you have to dig into it. You're right, because people, I think that they just go off the fact of the worst are highest paying jobs or best jobs, gibberish. And people look at that and they go, "Oh, I'll just go do that." And it's just like, does it even connect with you in any, imagination or any scenario? So that's a big issue too. Example, like when I spoke at BU before with you, I also spoke at Suffolk. And one of the students, he goes, "Yeah, I'm going into accounting." And I go, "Congratulations, we need accountants, we need CPAs." I read it that morning in one of the the local newspapers. And then he goes, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't like it." I'm like, "Well, you just spent 40 years getting a good day." And yeah, so you have to prepare, because I consistently hear that all the time with the students. It's amazing, what they tell you versus, what the media tells you. So I'm always, you know, you, contrarian when it comes to the media. You got to be, somebody's got to think it differently.
Well, you bring up an important point there, Mike, and I want to use this as an opportunity to mention um, my first book, which I'm very excited about, which is Clarifying What Matters, Creating Direction for Your Career, which is forthcoming this week. So I'm very excited about this. And thank you so much for your encouragement, support, and guidance on the project, Mike, because being able to see that you've done it. Of course, our books are very different, but they both have a lot to offer. And I really have appreciated, your encouragement during the process. And so, some of the things that I talk about in my book, Clarifying What Matters, is the importance of knowing yourself. Because before you can figure out what career is going to make sense for you, or what next steps in your career make sense, it's important to have a certain level of self-awareness. What are you good at? What do you enjoy?
Yep.
What is meaningful to you? What kind of a lifestyle are you looking for? These are all the kinds of things that you need to be really doing an inventory of, asking yourself the tough questions so that you can have clarity on those things. And then you can see, okay, so what kinds of roles, industries, organizations, and so forth could be a good match.
That's exactly right. Yeah, keep informing more about the book, because the fact is, people are out there and they hit a point. They make the bad decisions like I did, and they're in a career, and they're like, "What am I going to do with myself?" So they need tools that you'll be offering to give them better guidance and understanding of how to choose either better professions or how to get out of their rut they're in and what to do about it. So it's extremely valuable. And a lot of people have asked me that too. When you came up with me, when you informed me what you're writing about, I'm like, everybody's talking about that. They're in these occupations, and there's no joy. Like when I was in tech sales, I I think I told you this one. I used to tell people, I go, 95% of the people I work with, and mostly guys, were miserable. And one of my associates told me, he goes, "Wysocki, you're crazy. It's 98%." And so, I mean, it just shows you people just take jobs usually for either money or they think it's cool. They never do any homework. And because of what you're already putting out there, maybe some, do a little bit more homework or understand when they're in a situation, how to pivot. Yeah, I've learned some
Right.
skills here. How can I pivot that into an industry I enjoy, So, or,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having that understanding of transferable skills is so important. And so what we mean when we say transferable skills is skills that you've picked up in some setting, some kind of experience. It could be a job, it could be something else. Maybe it was volunteer work, maybe it was as a student. It could be any number of things, a
yeah,
passion project that you've worked on. But basically, skills that you've developed, things like project management, things like communication, things like leading teams, okay, data analysis. These are all examples of transferable skills. And so the idea is that almost like a piece of luggage, right? You can pick it up and bring it with you into a new setting. And so that means you might have a very different job title, or you might move from one industry sector or issue area to another. And most people today do that many times throughout their career. But there can be a lot of fear and a lot of concern around doing this. And there are lots of great resources out there to help you figure out how to do it. But yeah, starting with, clarity about yourself, who you are, what's important to you. That's something that I emphasize in the book.
yeah, yeah. The other one too is, you notice a lot there is professional skills too. Is the people need to understand and know how to, use them properly, because sometimes I mean, I talk to some of these students and all like that, and I'm like, you're gonna have to be public speaking. Have you taken a public speaking class? Automatically do that. The writing, like that. They have to learn how to write and get something published. So there's a lot of angles and aspects out there. Yeah. So when's the book going to be out there? Everybody's dying to buy them, and read
Any
it.
minute now.
Yeah.
Yes, very shortly. And people can learn more by visiting my website, ericamattison.com, and sign up to receive updates, to get the details and be one of the first to be able to purchase the book. It will be available all the places online this month in September 2024. So, really excited to get it out there and use it as a way to have dialogue with different people about career stewardship, about these topics that we've been talking about together today. And Mike, where can people go to learn more about what you have out there and what you're working on?
Well, it's the easiest thing is always I tell people my website, which is the same name as the book, Careers by the People, because my student success workshop is great for high schools and colleges, especially. I have a Udemy course I built, which is kind of interesting to do one of those things. What else is there? I've got it, the ebook as well too. So that that's the majority about what I'm doing. So I really enjoy the speaking aspect to the students. That's great stuff. Working on book two, and just getting out there. Oh, my YouTube videos, I forgot about that. I only did over 100 of those things. So yeah,
Wow.
YouTube videos of every subject under the book, either careers, or it has to do with networking, or it has to do with soft skills, they call them professional skills these days. So as you know, I mean, career coaching is it's something that I think people should be looking into, just because the fact is, if you're in a confused field and you're not sure what you're going to be doing, go sit down with somebody like Erica. Erica understands the world. That's all she studies, so it's a whole different animal to look into, but at least she can help you pivot and understand what's going on. So yeah.
Thank you for
How
that.
about you?
And what we have a couple more minutes together. One of the questions that somebody shared with us in advance was, what is the most important thing that somebody can do for their career? And I thought, wow, that's a big question. And of course, it depends on the person and the circumstances. As any good lawyer, my first reaction to that was, it depends. But
Yeah.
how would you tackle that question?
Well, it's funny when I saw the question and all like that, I'm thinking to myself, what do you want? Like the silver bullet that doesn't exist, but then I tied it back into you because you asked about curiosity. And I think that is it right there, because if you have no interest and you're just checking into your gig and you're lost and you're stagnant in your career or your field, or nothing drives you, then there's no curiosity, then that's the issue right there. And so I think that that was when I was looking, when I saw the question, and I recall what you were mentioning earlier, I'm like, this is it. I mean, so if you have some interest in what you're doing, at least you're in an industry that that feeds your mind, but you can also bounce around there too. Sales, operations, project management. There's so many different things to do, but at least you have to be interested in what you're doing. If not, you're going to be, pretty much lost, or you just checked out. And who wants to be checked out?
Mm,
Yeah. So what
yeah.
are your thoughts on the question?
Yeah. So what you're saying makes me think about the importance of adopting what's called a growth mindset, which Carol Dweck writes about extensively. So this notion of you can either have a fixed mindset or you can have a growth mindset. Growth mindset being, hey, I can learn things. I might not know how to do a certain thing, but if that's something I want to learn, I can learn that. I can research that. I can talk to people who already know that. I can experiment with it, take classes in it, work with a coach, get mentored, whatever the ways are that you want to learn things. Listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. I mean, so many ways that we can learn things these days. But really having that curiosity and that belief in oneself, I think that's crucial. And you were also talking about you have to have an interest, right? Like in order to really do work that feels meaningful to you, you need to be invested in it. You need to have a certain level of interest and curiosity. I echo that. And then the last thing I would say around that, just to add another dimension, is around the importance of investing in your network. So you probably can relate to this, Mike, and maybe some of our audience, which is that it's easy to reach out to people when you want something from them, except that it's kind of difficult because you usually feel sort of weird about it because it's like, oh geez, I haven't talked to this person in years, and now here I am
Yeah.
wanting something from them. I want them to serve as a reference for me for a job, or I want them to make a recommendation of some sort, or to keep me in the loop about opportunities at their company or what have you, right? And so what I would say to kind of deal with that is that we need to get in the habit of cultivating our networks regularly. It needs to be a routine. It should be part of our everyday life. But the only way that we're going to do that is if it kind of feels fun and easy, right? We typically as humans, I think, don't really like doing stuff that feels like a chore. And so unless we find a way to make that chore feel fun. So as opposed to thinking of it as networking and really, awkward, think of it as start with who you know, who do you already know, like, and trust? And how do you simply build upon those existing relationships? And how do you help each other build your networks? So, helping the people in your network get to know other people who you already know. And then they can also introduce you to people who they know, and simply start there.
Yeah. Here's the thing about it is it's when it comes to networking, because of what I did in tech sales, I always thought I was really good in networking. And then I read this book, 20-minute networking. And wow, it actually is, I'm going to do a video on it too. But the point about it is, it was really some good, clear, and concise information about networking. And I was really impressed by it. So that was a great one. But you're right. You always have to go out there and check in with people, see what's going on. And the other one too is the person in the book there, they mentioned, it's okay to ask for something, but also the other thing too is it's okay for you to offer something. Say, hey, by the way, this is, what can I do to help you? And that's what
Absolutely.
people, and that's what he says is a
Yes.
curveball because the guy's like, he goes, I've been doing networking for years. And he goes, when this person came in and asked that, he goes, game changer. So
Yeah,
that's,
totally. Coming from a place of service is a really important way to approach relationship building and networking. And Mike, we're out of time for today, but it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. I encourage folks to check out your book, Careers by the People. A reminder, mine's coming out soon, Clarifying What Matters. Go to my website,
yay.
ericamattison.com, to learn more. I work with folks one-on-one. I also lead group workshops to support team dynamics, effective communication, leadership development, and more. And I'm really excited to continue this dialogue. So let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, it was really fun. I think we should keep get the word getting out and just figure it out with different ways and different angles and how to help and assist people out there. So Erica, great idea. Thank you for the idea coming up with this. And yeah, I think you should keep it rolling. Why not? You know?
All right, great. Have a good one. Thanks,
You too.
Mike.
Take
Bye,
care. Much
everyone.
aloha.